Say it with me. You're 4-0 Fighting Illini. Locked On Illini. Let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
4-0 feels incredible. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for joining us at Locked On Illini. We're having a lot of fun here. It's oh no. All right. Even my computer couldn't handle that game. What a victory. What man. I'm going to let you guys all settle in here. Of course, now the internet's having issues. I want to hear your thoughts, please. Let's go. 4-0 start. What does a 4-0 start feel like? Luke Altmyer, my X Factor, his breakout game. I think that's exactly what we just had. And the best part of this game was we didn't beat a bad team. Nebraska looks like they're legit too. How far has this program come that we, on a Friday night, when all the attention was on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, was on Dylan Raiola, our team wasn't phased one bit. They're ready to go. Let's see. Jackson, thank you for joining me. Jackson was at my watch party. Thank you for joining me also, Sean. Owen, what a great win. What a great win. I mean, and the best part is essentially all of college football world was watching that game. I heard the other game was pretty well too. Stanford beating Syracuse. I heard that one came down to the wire. But for the most part, the eyes and attention of the college football world was on Lincoln, Nebraska. What an amazing performance by the defense in OT. Yes, indeed. So for me, the guy who I'm just astounded by, and the guy who I want to give credit before I give credit to anybody else. And I want to know if you guys agree. Barry Lunny Jr. In that second half, he had just about the best play calling that I recall him doing since he got to Illinois. He was confusing Nebraska. We went back to the run, which shocked me in particular. Really wasn't working much in the first half, but Josh McCray got going and Caden Fagan got going. I think I tweeted about that. I was like, hey, what if this is the game Caden gets going? He didn't quite, but he broke a couple runs. And it was the game that I thought Nebraska was going to play, where you keep it close, and then in the second half, Nebraska, with their physicality, I thought they would wear Illinois down. That's not what happened. It was Illinois who wore Nebraska down. Luke Altmyer showed poise. He wasn't intimidated by the lights whatsoever. And you know what? Let's give props to Dylan Raiola. He had those 2 fumbles late in the game, sure. But he had a fantastic game himself. Leprechaun, another victory. Great defense in overtime. Arthur says, happy to join from Florida. Go Illini. It's nice to see some new faces that I don't necessarily always interact with. Fox Rip says, no worries, Sunny Verma, chug that beer off screen. I'm not going to say I haven't been tempted, but, we'll see. Oh, and would like to have seen a little more Valentine. Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of the things I was surprised about. I thought he'd play a bigger role. When he finally had a couple plays in the fourth quarter, he did what I expected him to do. But again, good call by Barry Lunny Jr. He used 4 running backs that game. 4 running backs with 4 distinct different styles. Nebraska, Tony White, arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country, he didn't know how to react. You have to play different styles of defense against all these 4 running backs. And Barry Lunny Jr. won that battle against Tony White today. P. Sammy says, congrats, Illini. What a game. Sean says, Josh and Brett hugging each other. Yeah. Again, because I come on immediately live afterwards, I don't get to see the press conference. This is kind of a reaction show. We get to talk about what we saw from the team, which I can't wait to really talk about. Cat feelings. I felt bad for Nebraska. They take these losses really personal. I don't feel bad for nobody. The Illini are 4-0. And if you really want to know why I don't feel bad, take a look at Gander at that video or the podcast that I did with Justin, where I talked about the Nebraska and what they do on offense and defense. And take a look at the comment section. 90% of Cornhuskers fans thought this game would be over at halftime. And so I'm curious to see what they think now. Zara says, Nebraska's receivers impressed me. Dylan Raiola impressed me. Isaiah Nyer's a beast. We beat a very good team today. That's the best part of this all. This wasn't I'm sure you guys all remember last year's Illinois-Nebraska game. That set football back a couple decades. One of the worst football games I've ever seen. This was the complete opposite of that. You had 2, I'm not going to say heavyweight fighters because I don't exactly know what the ceiling is for Nebraska and Illinois, but 2 very good boxers go at it back and forth. I almost knew that this game would go to overtime. And, I mean, you had some of those calls early in the game. Some missed calls, admittedly on both sides. And you were just hoping that it wasn't refereeing that would dictate this game go one way or the other. And it wasn't. It was just flat out good football. That announcing crew was horrible. Talk about biased. See, I don't know because I had the game on mute, but I believe it. And I don't think you should be surprised about it. For you everydayers who watch the show daily, by the way, thank you so much. And if you don't, and this is your first time tuning in, I produce Illini content every single day. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I continue to do this for you guys. But I talked about how on Friday night, all the attention was going to be on Nebraska. Them being 3-0. The game being in Lincoln, Dylan Raiola, the hot new freshman quarterback who's played admittedly great his first 3 games. This was as little pressure for a 3-0 Illinois team that I feel like you can face. And that's why all credit to Brett Bielema. This team, I was watching this game. Again, I was hosting a watch party with another Nebraska fan, and he couldn't believe just how close our defensive backs stuck to their wide receivers. They've got a couple wide receivers on that team that are going to play on Sundays. But our guys were plastered all over. They made a couple plays, sure. But for the most part, Mark says, this was the best game Illinois has played in years, in my opinion. Whole team played really good football. Yeah, I mean, right now, who was the weakness in today's game? The offensive line performed in that second half. The wide receivers made plays. Pat Bryant missed that one wide open catch, but Luke Altmyer had the game. And I'm going to wait to talk about Luke because I feel like I'm kind of vindicated on this one. I've been on the Luke train for almost a year now, at least halfway through last season. And I think finally, after this game, he's going to get the positive publicity that he absolutely deserves. TM says Illinois' defense closed out the game, just like they've been closing out the last couple of games. I mean, I don't have the stat in front of me, but how many points have we allowed in the second half of games this year? I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Aaron Henry, give him his flowers. He's stepped up big time. A lot of Illini fans wanted him gone. Jason, let's go. Let's go. ILLINI. Happy Hermit. I thought the Illini wore down the Husker D in the second half. That's what, even now, thinking to myself, I originally thought, okay, maybe we would lose. We'd keep it close at halftime. I knew this game was not a 10-point spread like it was at some point. That was ridiculous. That was people who were, again, hyping up the Nebraska train and not paying close enough to Illinois and the way they've been playing. But my feeling, my thinking was that this would be a close game till about the third quarter. And then maybe at that point, based on what we've watched, that maybe Nebraska's bigger players would be eventually wear us down. And then ultimately they might come out with a single score victory or whatnot. But that's not what happened. That is what happened, but in reverse. I'm really curious to kind of tune into what Nebraska fans say after this game. Tony White was outcoached. Barry Lenny Jr., who all of us have been, I got a bunch of wake up Barry at halftime texts in my comments at my @ on Twitter. He woke up. Xavier Scott is amazing. Absolutely, Leprechaun. Raider Nation, those who know. Leprechaun says, Altmyer's looking good. Altmyer, if the nation doesn't know who Luke Altmyer is, they learned today. And that's kind of, let me know in the chat if you watched today's episode. He was my X factor, and I said that there's no way that if Illinois didn't come out victorious today, it would be with Luke Altmyer being the MVP. And he showed up. 3 touchdowns. Let me pull up the stats. This is 4 touchdowns. The overtime touchdown. I forgot. The fourth touchdown. Down pat. Impressive defensive stand. Nebraska was cooked their first snap of overtime. So, and this kind of coincides with Leprechaun of NOFC's comment. I think Raiola was playing with so much confidence for 3 3/4 of that game. But that last drive, when it was 24-24, and he got stripped twice, you could tell something changed. And that's what I'd been talking about all week long. He's a fantastic quarterback. In his junior year, he's going to be the best, arguably the best quarterback in the country. You see it. Even now watching this game, that's what I think. But he's 18 years old. He's playing in his first Big Ten game with a sold-out stadium. And once that first strip sack happened, And then the second one, twice in 3 snaps. Dennis Briggs Jr., another guy who, how can you not be happy for Dennis Briggs Jr.? The guy's career has been marred with injuries. Every time he's on the field, he's productive. Comes to Illinois, he was in Rayola's face all night long. Down pat says, impressive defensive stand. New Nebraska was cooked. Oh, sorry, I read that one. PJ said, great game, Illinois. I'm a Nebraska fan. Good luck the rest of the way. PJ, appreciate you. Yeah, Nebraska fans, Twitter is going to probably roast them right now. Absolutely. But I think this was just 2 very evenly matched teams. These are 2 teams that are probably the 5th or 6th best in the conference. And Illinois won. Why? I think the difference was Luke Altmyer is in his 3rd year as a college football quarterback, whereas Dylan Raiola is in his his 4th start. That seemed to be the difference. And the coaching, which, again, over previous Nebraska teams wouldn't be all that impressive. I think I could grab a handful of you in the chat and we can outcoach a Scott Frost team, but not this one. Not Matt Rule. Not Tony White. Tony White, again, is arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country. And yet the Nebraska analyst I was watching this game with was like, I've never seen Tony get sliced up like this. First it was McCray. Then it was Caden. Then Lawfrey. And then Valentine came in at the end. But then we still had Luke Altmyer making those throws. He never backed down from the moment. And this is why I can't say enough about this kid. A lot of people, maybe me included, were wondering, hey, why wasn't Luke voted a captain? Shouldn't a quarterback be voted a captain? And we talked about how, what was his name? Brandon Phillips, who was also quiet, and he didn't quite exude that leadership that you kind of want from a quarterback. But today was Luke's arrival. I'm so happy for this kid. I really think he's going to be the talk of game day tomorrow, of the Fox Sports show tomorrow. They're going to all be talking about this instant classic. Arguably, it's going to be one of the contenders for game of the year. Lon says, thought the Fox announcers were homers there. I mean, I believe it. Again, I can't confirm because I had it on mute. Cat, yeah, I'm not joking. Take a look at that video where I think it was like analyzing the enemy from 2 days ago. There's 50 some odd comments, and 40 of them are saying this game's over. Illinois is good, but not that good. Fox says, I live in Oregon and I'm headed to the Illini versus Ducks game in October. Think I should buy a Seahawks Witherspoon jersey to troll them. Jason, Pat Bryant is a pro. So much fun to watch. Just some big catches. I hope. And let me know if you guys have heard anything on Zakari. All I did was I saw him on the sideline, some with his ankle, I think, and his helmet was off. Again, I didn't hear any of the commentary. It didn't look serious, but, hopefully this is not a long-term injury with him. We have Penn State next week, by the way. So we're going to need all the weapons that we can have. And again, this is very preemptive talking. I'm going to enjoy this win. But can you imagine Luke Altmyer having the complete redemption game next week against Penn State? A lot of the country gave up on the guy last year after the 4 interceptions in the first half. But if he can come back next week against Penn, you don't think that's on his mind? Alex says, they were so biased I couldn't even tell they won because they seemed so depressed. Was it that bad? Arthur says, congrats, Sunny, 100+ viewing. Thank you. 170 of you viewing. Thank you. Again, I hope most of you are everydayers, but if you're not, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm out here every single day producing content for you guys. The only one when it comes to the Illini space. I'm so happy for Luke. He was so good tonight. Luke and Dylan went punch for punch for 3 3/4. If I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm proud of what Dylan did. But for that last half of the fourth quarter, he became an 18-year-old. And you can see after that series where he had 2 fumbles, the following drive, Nebraska just kept running the ball. I think maybe their offensive coordinator may have seen it also. And I think you guys are going to agree with me. I don't know what was up with Nebraska in overtime, but it really genuinely looked like the lights got way too bright for them. Like all those years of here comes Nebraska. Nebraska's about to Nebraska again. And that's what happened. What was it, 2nd and 46 or something like that? And even the next 2 plays, Dylan threw like a 5-yard out. And on 4th down, he didn't even try to make a play. Again, I think the moment got too big for him. Which is okay. If you're a Cornhusker fan and you're upset at Dylan Raiola right now, I think you're crazy. Jason says, and let me say, Xavier Scott is a pro as well. Yeah, I don't know if you guys missed it, whoever was tuning in a little late, but I was watching this game with an analyst for Nebraska, and he couldn't say enough about our defensive backs and how they were sticking to these wide receivers like glue. Now, granted, they made some plays, their wide receivers, but their wide receivers are bigger than our cornerbacks. And, plays are going to happen. That's natural. That's college football. But this wasn't the first 3 teams that, Nebraska played. They didn't face this sort of defense against Colorado. Nebraska was a very confident fan base coming into this game, especially after Kansas lost to UNLV last week. Not much credit was given to the Illini, but Brett Bielema, they had him going. Mark says that Nebraska crowd is great. Yeah, I mean, how can you not just be jealous? Sean says, Kent's on the Luke train now, too. Yes, absolutely. You guys know, again, my everydayers on Fridays, Kent from Casual Big Ten, he's now forced to buy a Luke Altmyer jersey, and he's got to wear it every time a Illinois game is on. Fox River says, Nebraska crowd was real, so proud of this Illini team to weather the storm. Exactly. Like 3 games in, after that loss against Kansas, I myself was trying to figure out where this team was. A lot of people in the preseason had this team projected to be in the bottom 3. Granted, I couldn't figure that out. But to me, they looked impressive in the first 3. But this was their first real test. Nebraska, one of a team coming in who many say was one of the 3 best defenses in the conference. We put up 31 on them. Luke Altmyer, 215 yards, 21 for 27, 4 touchdowns. Caden Fagan had 69 yards, 5.8 average, and that's kind of what we've been wanting from him, right? He was able to at least get to that second level, which is what makes him so hard to tackle. Josh McCray, I think Josh McCray was our best running back. They started with him in the beginning of that second half, and he was gashing Nebraska for yards. I'm having a trouble time just thinking about what I'm saying. They beat up that Nebraska defense. Only weakness was Brooks ugly. Yeah, you kind of got a glimpse of what the coaching staff might be talking about. Like that one play that he gave over his left shoulder where he was 3 yards too spread out from his wide receiver. I don't know what's going on there. Sean says, I just hope Zakari is okay. You and I both. Let me know if you guys heard anything. I don't know. Zakari will be fine. His arc, I'm worried about. It looks like his back damn near broke. That looked like it hurt. Orange and Blues from Frank. Frank, thanks for joining us. Oh, and I loved watching the big, ugly catch. Brandon Henderson. Who had that on their bingo card? That pick by Torrey was insane. Now, who in this chat thought that was a catch? And who thought that was an interception? Because I thought that was an interception. I thought that was a catch at first. But then as soon as I saw the replay, I'm like, I think he got it. And I don't think I would have been upset if the ref said it was inconclusive and they let the touchdown stand. But the fact that the referees made the absolute right call, on that play. And they're going to be talking about that game, I'm sure, or that play, I'm sure, all night long. And that, Kat brings up another point. That one-handed catch by McCray. I was talking about it in the preseason. We have 4 legit running backs. Actually, I thought we had 3. I didn't realize that Khalil Valentine was as talented as he is and that he was as ready. Darren says, congratulations from a Huskers fan. You beat us in every phase. Good luck. And good luck to you guys, man. I personally don't have anything against Nebraska. I did really want to win this game just because of the feedback I had gotten on some previous episodes. But, yeah, it's one of those games where it's announced to the world that, hey, yeah, Illinois is good. We're here. Think of the quarterbacks in that Big Ten conference. How many of those quarterbacks would you take over Luke Altmyer right now? If you have a good quarterback in college football, you always have a chance. And Altmyer, I don't think, did he make any mistakes today? I know he got tackled and he lost a fumble. But I noted a couple of times where he just threw the ball away or he just took a sack. I'm like, last year, he would have tried to force something. He didn't today. He was our most valuable player, at least player-wise. Vox says, as Nebraska fans, we just don't understand a lot of the final 7 minutes of the game, too. My only thinking is, again, Dylan got rattled a little bit. And I was on the Voice of College Football show Thursday morning with a gentleman from Corn Nation, and I talked about that being one of the keys. I was like, hey, I know Dylan's very talented. I know he's good, but I want to put him in a position where he starts to feel pressure. And the gentleman basically said, you don't know Dylan. He comes from a family where his godfather's Matthew Stafford. He doesn't really feel pressure. He's ready for it. And I'm like, he very well might be, but prove it. And Illinois was in his face all night long. The defensive backs were stuck on their wide receivers all night long. And finally, with about 5 or 6 minutes left, when Dylan got stripped the first time, I do think something happened at that point. At that point, he became an 18-year-old quarterback, which, by the way, is okay. Mark says, Altmyer, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. John W., who is Alice's Nebraska's team as well as coach, highly talented and yet in a hostile environment. Daryl Thomas, literally no one picked Illinois. Nobody. The only people who picked Illinois were Illinois fans. Again, I'm repeating myself. The fact that this, at the conclusion of the Central Michigan game, I guessed that Nebraska would be 6.5-point favorites. They came out at 8.5, and then it was all the way up to -10. And I think it finally settled at -9. Caitlin says, can't wait to hear Joe Klatt eat his words on his podcast. I like the guy, but he said that Luke was a decent quarterback and that Illinois wouldn't hold up. See, I don't blame Joel. I'm telling you, Caitlin. Like, this is – people made up their minds on Luke Altmyer in the first half of that Penn State game 1 year ago. They think he lost his job to John Paddock. We know that didn't happen. Luke was playing fine in that second half. He got hurt. John Paddock came in, game-winning drive against Minnesota, and then he throws for 530 yards against Indiana. Check it out. Loyal watcher. Luke was awesome. Illinois DBs were awesome. The whole running back core were amazing. Exactly right, Harold. If you had told me that the running game would have shown up, I would have been a lot more comfortable predicting the win. If you watched my YouTube short this morning, I was taking my morning workout, my morning walk afterwards, and I talked about it. I was like, you know what? I feel better about this game. Had I known, that the running backs would play the way I can't wait to see these PFF grades when they come out. I want to know who the weak link was. Outside, sure, some couple plays by Terrence Brooks where I can kind of now see why he might not be playing as often as he is. Reed, I was worried that no call face mask near the end of the first half was going to sink it for us. Bit of a make-up call, no call late hit at the end of OT. Yeah, Reed, so that worried me as well because that was the typical Brett Bielema, hey, we're going to waste some time. We're going to draw down the clock. We're going to score at the end of the first half, get the ball back at the kickoff in the second half, and score then and have a 2-score double-dip play. And it didn't work. And what happened? Nebraska came back in 2 minutes, and they scored a touchdown. And at that point was the first time I was like, okay, what's about to happen here? Is Illinois finally going to start fizzling? Spoiler alert, Illinois did not start fizzling. Knights asks, will Franklin be okay? I don't know. I hope so. I'm sure Brett's probably going to be doing his press conference right around now, and we'll find out. But we'll see. It was us last year. We expected to be great and folded. They are a year away. I think they're good this year, Daryl. I'm not going to lie. I think we saw 2 really good football teams play tonight. And not just us. We saw 80% of the college football universe was watching our game tonight. And I'm very curious to see on Monday, where we're ranked. Because now you're looking at a potential top 20 ranked matchup against Penn State next week. I mean, coming into today, 4 of our next 5 games were going to be against ranked teams. With the game against Purdue in the middle, wedged in the middle. We have to beat Purdue this year. We absolutely have to get over that weird monkey in our back that they've been. But if we won 2 out of those 5, I would have been elated. And the fact that we've already beaten Nebraska now, I mean, those of you who watch this game, and, again, this is an Illini crowd, so it might be a little bit biased, but you're telling me that this team can't compete with Penn State next week? Penn State isn't Ohio State. Penn State almost lost to, Bowling Green, I believe, week 2? You don't think Penn State Nittany Lions fans are a little nervous right now? I'm not going to say we're going to be favored, but there's no way that spread should be the 10 that Nebraska was today. I think Vegas is learning. I think the people are going to be learning. They're learning that Illinois is legit. We've got a great defense. One of the best secondaries in the country. A secondary which, honestly, is reminding me of the one 2 years ago. Not quite at that level, but like an A- version. They're going to give a lot of people fits. The defensive line today stepped up. I keep repeating myself. Everything that I thought was going to be a weakness on this team, Aaron Henry has completely shut me up. And today, coming in today, what I thought the weakness was, that offensive line, they went up against the vaunted black shirts, and they dominated that second half. Wild Things Fishing Chance says, I can't believe I'm saying this as a Mizzou fan, but thank you, Illini, for shutting up Nebraska fans. Nice job, boys. See, Nebraska can bring Illinois and Missouri fans together. Alan says, Josh McCray, I was so proud of him. He was a bulldozer tonight, and Fagan as well. Yeah, I think Josh McCray kind of turned the game around. Luke Altmyer was having a fantastic game, but that second half, when he was just getting 6 yards, that kind of set the tone. And no, Nebraska, didn't really go back to running in that second half. They put all that pressure on Dylan. Our running back stepped up. And again, if you had told me that the running backs would have stepped up before the game, I wouldn't have been so. I'm not that surprised. I'm genuinely not that surprised we won. The country is a lot more surprised than I think most of us here in this chat are. Congrats to Illinois. Nebraska got outcoached. Absolutely. No one can argue that. Super fun game. Both teams played hard. Quality win on the road. Fantastic win on the road. Simeon, loyal watcher. Illini, let's go. Let's go, Simeon. Harold, bring on Penn State. Right? I'm looking forward to this game. I know it's at Penn State, but I'm pretty sure the last time we were at Penn State, we won that game. Granted, that final score was 9-6, I think, or something like that, in 9 overtimes. Lon says, how high do they move in the rankings? I'm curious about that too. We're at 24 now, beating number 22. I mean, a lot of it also depends on who loses in front of us. We know we're going to jump Nebraska. But honestly, like, if speaking from a neutral party, how far would you drop Nebraska? I don't necessarily think they should be falling out of the top 25. Maybe right at 25. Those are two good football teams tonight. Sarah says, where do you think we'll be ranked? Somewhere between 17 and 19 in the next polls. Right in that area. Right in that area. It's Sean was part of my watch party. Sean, thanks for following me over here. Thanks to all the Huskers who are being good sports. It's got to be hard. Exactly. I've talked about this before. Nebraska is my favorite opposing fan base. For the most part, when you talk about sheer numbers, there's so many of them. The fact, of course, you're going to have trolls here and there. And sure enough, a bunch of them showed up in the comment section of my videos this week. But by and large, they're a good bunch. Michael says, don't worry about AP poll. I know, Mike, it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter. But for fans and where this program is headed, you don't think, a top 20 matchup against Penn State next week, like that energizes the fan base. I know the coaches don't care much for it, but when Illinois has that little number in front of them, that adds a little extra juice. Why? Because we're not used to it. We have games coming up against Penn State, Oregon, Michigan. We may not have that number in front of us much longer. Who knows? Or we might. But being 4-0, being ranked at the top 20, like, again, it matters for stuff like recruiting and honestly just national perception. Alan says, let's get Penn State. Michael says, 1-0 this week. That's all that matters. You're right, Mike. You're absolutely right. Brad says, didn't Franklin come back in the game late in the second half? Did he? I don't think I saw him. Kat says she didn't see him either. Brennan says, if the running game can play as well as they did, especially against top-notch rush defenses like Nebraska, this offense will play hand in hand with the defense, trying to find the biggest weakness. What is it? Alan Winter, Altmyer, talk about poise. Again, I can't talk about this enough. I'm so proud of this kid. I almost feel like I'm a older brother. The way, I feel like I've fended off a lot of it. Ken said it on Friday's episode, right? That I had been telling him all off season long, like, hey, you're not giving credit to Luke for how good of a player he is. And to have that performance on a Friday night in Lincoln, Brad said the whole Nebraska team got rattled. Yeah, I don't know what team that was that showed up in overtime in particular. That common theme, Nebraska gonna Nebraska, that happened today. And I almost feel bad for them if they weren't playing the Illini. America's team. Absolutely. I'm all for it. Move over, Indiana. The QB, yes. Illini win, Drew, yes. Phil, solid coaching for the Illini. I think it was more than solid. I would give them legit an A+, and I will give them an A+ when I do my grades on Monday or Tuesday. It's impossible not to. Think about it. We are 1/3 of the way through the season now, and we're 4-0. A lot of you in the Illini universe know who Mike Carpenter is. He's going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about this, I believe, on Tuesday's episode. Andrew says, ILL, baby. Bielema knows game administration, how to use the clock in the last 6 minutes. Dale says they took Nebraska's DTs out of the game. The game was 50-50 till the end. Luke and Raiola both played great. The game came down to players winning their matchups. The game came down to Luke being a seasoned vet, making the throws, not getting rattled. And I think Dylan, understandably, as an 18-year-old, shrinking. Big Dog says, was disappointed in Henry's stock pass rush early, showed out at the end, though. Gia says, nailed it, Sunny. Luke, and by golly, how about that offensive line? Oh, my God, what a win. So over the top on this one. I don't know when I'm going to sleep tonight. I have no idea. That's why I'm staying on now. Sean says, 2:05 live. Absolutely. We had a great showing. Appreciate all of you. Locked On. Yes, please. On your way out, please hit that like button, subscribe button. Again, daily, we're at 1201 subs. Thank you, guys. You're amazing. I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. So let me know in the chat right now or on Instagram, on Facebook, Locked On Illini, what you want me to talk. Because I think I'm going to record another episode. I'll have one for you tomorrow. I want to talk about this game. Amazing. Enjoy this, please. It's okay. Illinois is not 4-0 very often. Tomorrow, we get to sit back and relax and watch other teams sweat it out. I'm good with that. We've got a 4-0 football team. And guess what? We have a very good 4-0 football team. That's going to be it for now. I'll see you guys either probably tomorrow or Monday, whatever. We'll see. Enjoy this victory. Say hello. Find me at IlliniCast. Find me at TheSunnyV. Hit me up on Twitter. Let's have some fun. The way Nebraska fans show up on social media, I'll retweet all of you. Let's the orange and blue show up. Find me on Instagram, Locked On Illini, Facebook, Locked On Illini, and I'll see you very, very soon. ILL. Duh. I love you guys.